tell you the single most expensive mistake I see women make before they buy a short-term rental. They fall in love. They see the dreamy cabin with the wraparound porch. They picture themselves sipping coffee on it, and their heart signs a contract before their calculator ever gets a vote. I call that emotion-led investing, and it's how good women end up house poor, stressed, and quietly resentful of the Airbnb dream they bought. Here's my promise to you in this video. I'm going to hand you the exact framework I use to analyze a deal, calmly, on paper, before my emotions ever get involved. It's called CPR, and by the end, you'll be able to look at a property and tell with real confidence whether it's a red flag or a green light. No hype, no guru gut feeling magic, just a repeatable process that protects your money. I'm Stacey St. John, and I help women build short-term rental businesses that create freedom instead of overwhelm. And freedom starts with buying right. So let's take the emotion out and put math back in. Here we go. The real problem is emotion-led investing. Before I give you the framework, though, I want to name the enemy, because you can't beat what you won't look at. The enemy is buying with your heart instead of your numbers. And let me tell you, I'm not anti-emotion. I'm a feel-it-all kind of girl. A property you love is a wonderful thing, but love is the reward at the end of the analysis, not the reason you skip it. The order matters. The numbers have to work first. Then, and only then, do you get to let yourself fall in love for the place. Protect yourself first, enjoy it second. That's the whole philosophy. And the framework I'm about to give you is just that philosophy made practical. I call it the CPR Framework. I named this CPR on purpose because a deal that doesn't cash flow is a deal that can't breathe. And your job is to check its pulse before you commit. CPR stands for 3 questions you ask in order. C is for criteria. Does this fit my buy box and my life? P is for price. Does the price actually make sense? And R is for return. Does this meet my financial goals? You run them in that sequence every single time, and the framework does the heavy lifting for you. Let's walk through each one. C is criteria. Does it fit my buy box? Criteria comes first, and here's the rule that changes everything. You define your must-haves before you ever open the Zillow tab. Because if you go browsing first, you'll reverse engineer your criteria to justify the cute house you just found. We're flipping that. You decide your standards in the calm, then you shop against them. There are 5 pieces to your buy box. First, your market. This is the big one, so spend real time here. You want a location with genuine demand, a reason why people are traveling there on purpose. Maybe it's a national park. Maybe it's a college town where game weekends fill every bed. Maybe there's a major hospital system pulling in travel nurses. Maybe there's a steady drumbeat of events. No driver, no demand, no business. Then, and this is the part too many people skip until it's too late, check the rules. Local short-term rental regulations, zoning, and HOA restrictions can quietly kill a deal that looks perfect on paper. It's not your very first filter, but it's a non-negotiable. So confirm a property is actually legally able to operate before you go deeper. Second, property basics. Decide the property type and age range you're willing to take on, and set your true all-in budget, not just the purchase price, but the renovation and closing costs too. Third, the condition. Be brutally honest with yourself about how much rehab you can personally stomach. Do you want to buy turnkey, light lipstick, or a heavy gut job? And how do you feel about the big ticket systems like roof, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and any deferred maintenance hiding in the inspection report? Fourth, layout and function. Set your minimum bedrooms and baths for the guests and groups you want to host. your maximum sleeping capacity, and the unsexy practical stuff like parking and storage that guests absolutely notice. And fifth, amenities. Separate your must-haves from the nice-to-haves. Flag the revenue drivers worth investing in, like a hot tub or a game room, and write down your absolute deal breakers. When you've got those 5 defined, you have a buy box, and a property either fits in it or it doesn't. That alone will save you from 90% of the heartbreak houses. P is for price. Does the price make sense? Okay, a property cleared your criteria. Now we pressure test the price. And I do this in 2 passes, so I'm never wasting 30 minutes on deal analysis that a 5-minute check could have killed. Pass 1 is what I call the 5-minute sniff test. You take the projected annual income of the property and divide it by the purchase price. That gives you a gross income multiplier. A quick gut check on whether the income is even in the neighborhood of the return that you're looking for. For your revenue estimate, don't lean on a single source because no revenue estimating tool is gospel. I cross-reference several: AirDNA, Rabu, Awning, and B&B Calc, and I average their estimates to land on a realistic conservative number rather than betting on any single one. And if the sniff test stinks, you move on and you've lost 5 minutes of your time. By the way, I always look for a gross income multiplier of 25% or more. Pass 2 is the 30-minute deep dive, and this is where you'll build a real pro forma, a line-by-line projected operating budget. And I do mean every line, because the deals that bankrupt people are the ones where the expenses were a fantasy. Your property expenses, mortgage, taxes, utilities, insurance, capital expenditures, and maintenance. Include pest control and a miscellaneous cushion because something always comes up. Your operational costs, especially if you're self-managing, things like your tech, your supplies, and your cleaning and inspection costs based on how many turnovers you'll actually have each month. And don't forget about fees, which people forget about constantly. Are you going to hire a co-host or a property manager? Will you have OTA fees, credit card processing, or any HOA dues? When every one of these lines is filled in honestly, then you finally have the truth, not the dream, the truth. R is for return. Do the numbers on the spreadsheet actually meet my financial goals? Now, here is the payoff question. Your pro forma spits out 3 numbers, and these 3 numbers are how you judge whether a deal is actually worth your money. Number 1 is cash flow, your monthly net income after every single expense is paid. Number 2, your cash on cash return, your annual cash return as a percentage calculated by taking your annual net cash flow, dividing it by the total cash you invested to get in, and multiplying it by 100. That one tells you how hard your dollars are actually working for you. For me, I look for a cash on cash return of 20% or more. And number 3 is your payback period. How many years until the property hands you back your entire initial investment? Let me give you a feel for what good and bad look like, and then we'll apply it to real markets in a minute. A weak deal might cash flow only a couple $100 a month with single-digit cash-on-cash return and a payback period stretching past a decade. Technically, maybe profitable, maybe, but a slow leak that ties up your money for years. A strong deal, on the other hand, might throw off 4, 5, 6 times that in monthly cash flow with a cash-on-cash return in the 20s and your full investment handed back to you in just a few years. Same framework, wildly different results. And you can only tell them apart because you ran the numbers instead of just looking at Zillow photos online and falling in love. So let's run 2 deals together. Okay, here's enough theory. Let's actually do this. I'm going to pull up 2 different markets and walk them side by side through the CPR framework so you can watch a red flag and spot a green light in real time. And heads up, I'm going to use real market numbers as our anchors, but the specific listings you find the day you're shopping will be different. So follow the process, not the exact property you see on the screen. First is our potential red flag, and this is a beach condo in Myrtle Beach. On criteria, the demand driver is obvious. It's a beach, people go there a lot. But here's where I slow down because Myrtle Beach is massive, a high supply market, thousands and thousands of active listings, which means saturation and serious competition. So this particular property has to be priced and positioned well to really stand out. Let's talk about price. This is my favorite teaching moment because watch what happens when I check on revenue. Depending on which tool I pull, the average projected annual revenue lands anywhere from the mid 20,000s to the low 40,000s. And that is a huge spread. That's exactly why I never trust one tool. I pull in AirDNA, Rabu, Awning, and B&B Calc, and I average them. Let's say after averaging the 4, I land on a realistic number of about $35,000 a year for a typical unit here. I run my 5-minute sniff test, revenue divided by purchase price, and then build a pro forma. And when I do, a condo deal like this could come back looking like our red flag numbers. Maybe around $300 in cash flow every month, a cash on cash return under 10%, and a payback period north of 12 years. Then when you add in HOA fees, beach market seasonality where January is dead as doornails, and all that competition, for me, this particular property is a red flag. It's not a bad place at all. It's just not a deal that frees me. Now, our potential green light. Let's say this is a cabin in Hocking Hills, right here in my Ohio backyard. On criteria, the demand driver is strong and year-round. Over 4 million visitors a year come to visit the waterfalls, they go hiking, and they unplug for a nature-filled weekend. And a cabin with a hot tub is a proven revenue driver in this market. But I do my regulation homework because the city of Logan now requires a short-term rental license, a $50 application, and a $500 annual fee. So I have to factor that into my numbers instead of getting blindsided later. On price, the area runs on a healthy average daily rate, and the average annual revenue for a cabin like this one may be well up in the mid 50,000s. And I cross-reference my tools again. I build the same honest pro forma, including that license fee, and a deal like this can come back looking like our green light example. Maybe around $1,225 a month in cash flow, maybe a cash on cash return near 28%, and a payback period of right around 2 years. Same framework, completely different story. Now that's a green light. And now, only now, do I let myself fall in love with the cabin. I simply fall in love with the numbers. Do you see what just happened? 2 different properties, same exact process, and the math told me the truth before my heart could talk me into the wrong one. The beach condo, I love the beach and I own at the beach. That particular beach condo may have been an emotional pick. And let me say, who doesn't love the ocean? But this particular cabin, that's a smart pick. That's what CPR is doing. It's doing its job for you. So how do you pull it all together in the moment when a deal is in front of you and your heart is starting to race? You run a simple 4-question checklist. And here's my rule. You need 4 yeses to move forward, not 3, 4. Number 1, does it align with my buying criteria? Number 2, is it cash flow positive after all expenses? Number 3, does the cash on cash return meet my expectations? And number 4, does the payback period meet my goals? 4 yeses and you've got a green light. Anything less, you walk, and you walk without guilt because there is always another property, always. And notice what just happened. Your gut still got a vote, but it voted last after the math instead of first, instead of the math. That's the entire point. You're not a cold robot. You're a CEO who lets the numbers protect her so she can love this deal with confidence instead of crossing her fingers. So that's CPR, criteria, price, return. Define your buy box before you browse. Sniff test the price and then build the honest pro forma. Judge it on cash flow, cash on cash, and payback period. And require 4 yeses before you ever sign a deal. Run that every time and you will not buy on emotion. You will not buy a slow leak, and you will not lie awake at night wondering if you've overpaid. Now, if mastering this math is something you'd rather not do alone, staring at a blank spreadsheet at midnight, second guessing every number, that's exactly what we do inside the STR Success Accelerator. You'll get templates so you don't have to build them from scratch, and a whole community of women who will sanity check a deal with you before you ever commit. Stronger together, smarter always. The link is below if you want to get in. And if you've already got your property under contract and you're past this stage, first of all, congratulations. You're ready for the next step. I've got a full video walking you through all 12 steps to actually launch your listing, and I'll link it right here. But wherever you are, remember, run the numbers before you run with your heart. I'm Stacey St. John, lead with data, not drama. And I'll see you in the next video.